Okay, so what if I told you that the secret to taming your super distracted modern mind wasn't some new app, but actually a metaphor that's like 2,500 years old? Yeah, we're about to dive into this ancient framework that gives us an incredible blueprint for taking back control. I mean, you know the feeling, right? You sit down, you're ready to work, and then bam, your mind is somewhere else completely. You're thinking about what's for dinner, or replaying some weird conversation from yesterday, or you're just lost down that endless rabbit hole of notifications. We've all been there. But what if there's an actual system, a map, that explains exactly why that happens? All right, so first things first, let's really define the problem we're up against. Let's talk about the runaway mind. Because let's face it, in this hyper-connected world we live in, our attention is constantly, and I mean constantly, under siege. So when we hear the word addiction, our brains usually jump to, substances. But let's just broaden that definition for a second. Think about it like this. It's any repetitive thing you do that you just can't seem to control, even though you know it's kind of harmful and it's stopping you from getting to your goals. You know what I'm talking about, right? That endless scroll through 30-second reels, that is a perfect example of one of these modern escape routes that just completely hijacks our focus. But here's the thing. This is not a new problem, not at all. Ancient philosophies have been wrestling with this exact same issue for centuries. And one of them, in particular, left us this absolutely brilliant blueprint, a metaphor, really, that helps us visualize exactly what's going on inside our own heads. Okay, so let's get into the heart of this. Let's talk about your mind's chariot. This whole idea comes from an ancient text called the Katha Upanishad, and it's known as the parable of the chariot. And trust me, it's a fantastic way to map out all the different players inside our own minds and see how they're all supposed to work together. So the parable basically says to imagine your consciousness as a whole chariot setup. You, your actual true self, you're the passenger, just along for the ride. But for that ride to go smoothly, every other part of the system, from the wild horses to the person driving, has to be doing its job perfectly. So let's meet the crew. Okay, first up, the horses. In this metaphor, the horses are your five senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, all of them. And they are powerful. They're the ones constantly trying to pull the chariot toward all the shiny objects out in the world. That little ping from a notification, the smell of coffee, an interesting conversation you overhear. Yep, the horses are always trying to bolt towards the next new thing. Next, you've got the reins, which the text calls manas. This is your processing mind. Its whole job is to take all that raw, chaotic data coming in from the horses, your senses, and try to make some sense of it all. It's the part that filters and categorizes and weighs the pros and cons. Think of it as the crucial link between that wild energy of the senses and the calm, guiding intellect. And holding the reins, well, that's the charioteer, or buddhi. Now, this is the really important part. This is your higher intellect, your wisdom, your decision-making faculty. The charioteer's job is to hold those reins firmly and steer the horses not where they want to go, but where the passenger, your true self, has decided the destination is. This is the part of you that's supposed to be making the conscious choices. But here's a really interesting twist. It's not just about the chariot and crew. It's also about the path they're on. The path is shaped by something called chitta, which is basically your memory. It's the storehouse of every single past experience, every impression, every habit you've ever formed. And if the chariot has gone down a certain road a bunch of times before, well, it carves these deep ruts in the ground. And the horses, they will naturally want to pull the chariot right back into that familiar, easy path, a lot of times without the charioteer even thinking about it. So when you look at it all together, you can see the whole system in action. Ideally, the charioteer, your intellect, makes a conscious decision. It uses the reins, your processing mind, to guide the horses, your senses, along the path you actually want to be on. The catch? The whole operation is constantly being influenced by those deep ruts in the road, your ingrained memories and habits. So, let's see how this beautiful, elegant system can go completely, and I mean completely, off the rails. So, how do those deep, really hard-to-escape ruts even get formed in the first place? Well, it all comes down to a really powerful and kind of sneaky feedback loop. Let's break it down. Okay, at its most basic level, the process looks something like this. Your senses, the horses, bring in some data. Your mind, the reins, processes it. Your intellect, the charioteer, makes a decision. And that decision leads to an action. Simple enough, right? Like, I see a cookie, I decide I want the cookie, I eat the cookie. Boom. But, and this is a big But here's where the trap gets set. Every single action we take creates an outcome, and that outcome feeds directly back into our memory, that chitta we were talking about. So if the action felt good, if it was pleasurable, it reinforces the memory and the belief that, hey, this is a good path. The result? The next time your senses spot that same thing, the rut in the road is even deeper, making it way, way more likely that the horses will just automatically pull you in that same direction again. And this, right here, is the absolute core of the problem. After you do this enough times, the charioteer, our conscious decision-making intellect, it doesn't even have to be involved anymore. It's basically asleep at the wheel. The horses just see that familiar path, they feel the pull from those deep ruts of memory, and they just go. The reins go slack, the decision becomes totally automatic. And that, my friends, is the very essence of a habit, or an addiction. Okay, so if we're all stuck in these automatic loops, how in the world do we break free? How does the charioteer wake up and actually take back control of the reins? Well, this ancient framework doesn't just describe the problem, it offers a really practical, really concrete tool to solve it. And that tool is a practice called japa yoga. At its heart, you can think of it like a workout for the charioteer. It's a meditation technique that involves repeating a sound or mantra. And what that does is it gives the mind one single, simple, intentional thing to focus on, instead of just being yanked around by all the chaotic energy from the senses. And it's this really cool, progressive practice that you build up in stages. So step 1 is Vaikari Japa. This is where you actually chant out loud. You're literally using one of the horses, your sense of hearing, to direct your focus. Pretty smart, right? Then you move to step 2, Upamshu Japa. This is more of a quiet whisper or a hum, so the focus starts to become more internal. And finally, you get to step 3, Manasaka Japa. Here, the repetition is purely mental, totally silent. At this point, you're basically talking directly to your chitta, your memory, and carving a brand new intentional pattern. So here's the whole point. What japa does is it creates a new feedback loop. But this time, it's one you're building on purpose. It's a conscious one. Every single repetition is the charioteer making a deliberate choice to carve a new, healthier rut in the road. It's like a conscious veto, right? An override command that, if you practice it enough, eventually becomes stronger than those old automatic habits. And that brings us right back to you and how you can actually use this. Because this whole model, this whole chariot thing, it's not just some abstract, dusty old philosophy. It's a practical map, a map for becoming more self-aware and for taking charge of your own direction. It's all about recognizing that you actually have a choice in the matter. This quote really just sums up the whole thing perfectly. The point isn't to get rid of the horses. You can't. And it's not about getting rid of the reins. It's about becoming a skilled charioteer, someone who really understands the system and can guide the whole thing with intention and, a little bit of wisdom. Because ultimately, all the power lies with the charioteer, with your intellect. It's always there, just waiting for instructions. It's waiting for you to pick up the reins and give a command. Yeah, the old paths are deep and they're well-worn for sure, but new ones can always, always be created. So I guess the only real question left is, which path are you going to choose?